Welcome, shack packers, to Tales from the Shack. Step inside where the stories are cosy, but the chills run deep. This week we bring you a short tale from the shack to ignite your imagination and possibly send a shiver down your spine. We're thrilled to have you join us, so grab your favourite brew, pull up a seat and swing that light, and let the magic of storytelling whisk you away.
Good evening, Shack Pack. Tonight's tale begins not here in the shack, but a few weeks ago, during our recent trip to London. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll know that no matter where you travel, there is always that irresistible temptation to wander away from the busy streets and tourist attractions and explore the places hidden in between. Forgotten corners, back alleys, side streets, and places that seem to have escaped the passing of time. It was while wandering through one such cobblestoned alley that we found ourselves, myself and my husband Steve, standing outside a small second-hand bookshop. It didn't seem to be the sort of place that appeared in guidebooks, but the sort of place that you discover by accident. It fronted the world with faded charcoal-painted timber that looked as though it were being held upright by the sheer volume of the stock inside. There was a heavy layer of London grime that coated the windows, but someone had sort of half-heartedly wiped a circle into the dust of the main frame, the main part of the window, creating a literal peephole into another century. And inside the glass could be seen a chaotic jumble of leather-bound tomes, faded maps and sepia photos, and a few curiosities, including a large magnifying glass that was sitting on a very faded purple cushion. A single low wattage amber bulb burned somewhere deep in the back of the shop, casting a warm, honey glow over the dust motes dancing in the window. It felt like a secret waiting for those just curious and lost enough to find it. Weathered and forgotten, yet humming with a quiet, open-door invitation. Well, naturally, we went in. From the moment the door closed behind us, the muffled roar of London traffic completely vanished. It was absorbed and swallowed by the thousands of pages in hundreds and hundreds of books. The shop seemed larger on the inside, opening up like an old historic TARDIS. The air felt thick, still, and immediately heavy with the intoxicating distinct scent of old paper. A rich blend of earthy vanilla, dry wood, and a faint sweetness mingling with the unmistakable scent of an old basement, cool, damp hints of stone, and centuries of dust that had finally settled. Within the mix was a hint of beeswax, possibly from the old polished floorboards. My senses were overwhelmingly comforted by the sight of overflowing shelves, books stacked on chairs, old boxes seemingly filled with forgotten letters, old postcards, and some theatre programmes. With a knowing smile to each other, we wandered off in different directions, where I made my way deeper into the shop, where the dim light created dramatic shadows, illuminating gold leaf lettering on book spines and the occasional cobweb between books and the low ceiling. I stepped into a seemingly endless narrow aisle, a quieter, shoulder-width sanctuary where the towering wall of books felt insulated from the rest of the world. I hadn't actually searched into hidden corners or secret alcoves. The book, when I noticed it, was sitting right there, unimportantly obvious, on a gradual, sagging eye-level shelf, flanked by the crumbling spine of an old London lodgings and a soot-stained apothecary jar from some Southwark chemist. Yet it drew my eye like a magnet. The volume was rather large, its heavy, dark cover battered at the corners where the binding had frayed. The spine had sunk slightly with age. Faded gold lettering on the front announced it as the London Gazetteer, the directory of notable streets, alleys and courts from 1891. Not a pristine collection piece, it was a working book. As I carefully took it from the shelf, I swear it relaxed in my hands and it opened itself. Inside were lists of streets, courts, alleys and taverns, names of residents, workhouses, businesses, notes on local incidents. The sort of book a journalist, clerk or amateur historian might have carried everywhere. But what really caught my attention wasn't the book itself, it was what had been put and left inside. There were notes and writing scribbled in margins, and some occasionally crossed out. And pressed between some of its pages were old notes, writings, more scribbles on pieces of odd paper, train tickets for places to and from London, a receipt that was so faded it could barely be read, and an old postcard that was actually never sent. And there, folded carefully near the back, was a curious map of London. For a mere 12 British pounds, a piece of a forgotten city was just sitting there waiting for me to find it. The shopkeeper told me nothing about it, but in truth I don't even remember asking him. I bought the book, tucked it carefully into my bag, and actually thought no more about it, at least not until I brought it all the way home and back to the shack. Mortimer seemed unsurprisingly interested in the new item. It was directly from his era. I'd have been surprised if he hadn't. For the first few days, everything seemed perfectly ordinary. The Gazetteer sat on my desk while I worked. Occasionally, I'd leaf through its pages, reading names of long-forgotten streets and buildings and people who had vanished into history. The map at the back of the book remained folded inside. Or at least, I thought it did. One morning I came into the shack and I found the map open on my desk. I'd assumed I'd forgotten to put it away, so I folded it neatly and I slipped it back inside the book. But the following morning, there it was again, open and spread across the desk exactly as before. This time I was certain that I'd folded it. Still, I shrugged and again folded the map and I placed it inside the back cover of the book. But then it happened a third time and a fourth. The map simply refused to stay folded. I placed it inside a drawer when I returned, it had also returned to the top of my desk. I tucked it away between the pages of the book and put the book in the drawer. It appeared on top of my desk, unfolded on top of the book. I even placed my mug on it, folded it, put my mug on it that evening. The next morning, the mug was sitting beside it and the map was open once more. Always open, always waiting, and always showing, I noticed, a different part of London. There was a churchyard, a bridge, a narrow alleyway, a forgotten courtyard, a railway station, a tenement block, a workhouse, a hospital. Looking back, there was, of course, another clue. Mortimer. Now, our resident Victorian ghost has many qualities. Helpful is not always one of them. Mischievous, nosy, inquisitive, those qualities fit far better. Every time it seemed that I discovered the map unfolded, he seemed to be somewhere nearby, not touching it, not interacting with it, just watching. Once I caught him staring at it from his favourite chair by the fire, and when he noticed me looking, he smiled faintly, smirked, and then smoothly vanished through the back wall of the shack. Another time, I could have sworn I heard a quiet chuckle from somewhere behind me, just as the map slid from a bookshelf that I'd checked only moments before. When I turned around, Mortimer looked entirely innocent, which, strangely enough, only made him look even more guilty. Days passed, and my curiosity grew. I began taking notes of the places that the map had opened to. Every time it opened to a different place, like I said, a different area in the city, a place I'd not seen on the map before. My gut feeling was starting to believe that something rather unusual was happening. Then one rainy evening, whilst the wind rattled softly against the windows of the shack, I noticed something that I'd somehow missed. One of the folds in the map, sort of, as I ran my fingers along, felt thicker than the others, and carefully I eased the fold open. It turned out to be a small pocket, and inside was a very small scrap of paper. The ink was faded with age, but words still readable. For those who wish to walk with ghosts, it said. I stared at it for a really long time, repeating the words over and over in my head. And then I turned the map over, and that's when I noticed. That's when I saw them. There were tiny marks, dozens of them, little crosses scattered across the map. Some near famous landmarks, others hidden in places most visitors wouldn't even notice. Why hadn't I seen them before? Who had marked them? And why? Those questions occupied my thoughts for the rest of the evening, and these thoughts led me to consider our historical ghost tour that Steve and I had gone on our last evening in London. Our guide had taken us through specific spots in the city: a courtyard, a gallows area, an alley, a marketplace, a building, because tragedy happened there. But we weren't directed to the architecture as such. Our guide talked about the person, the people, the monks, the doctors, the plague victims, the condemned, the imprisoned, the murdered, the spirit sightings, the hauntings. The locations were just a stage. I looked at the map again and I studied the many crosses that I could see. Some were crosses in ordinary streets, inside houses, on the banks of the river, even crosses in the river. The final realisation hit me in the dead of night. Maps survive long after people die. But this map does the opposite. Streets change because people change, but the dead remain fixed. It was gone 3 a.m. when I realised I'd been looking at the map all wrong. I thought the map was directing me to places because the streets kept shifting from Southwark to Clerkenwell with every fold, but the city is just stone and mortar. It doesn't have a real soul. The ghost walk that we did wasn't about the old buildings as such. It had been about the echoes left behind by the people who had lived and died within them. I grabbed the map again, my eyes tracking the hundreds of tiny crosses peppered across the map. Quietly, excitedly, I said aloud, "These aren't marking historical monuments or street corners, are they? The map's anchoring the ghosts of its inhabitants. It's not a tool to navigate the city. It's a directory of lives cut short, an index of the city's souls. It's showing us exactly where a story of a person is waiting to be remembered, waiting to be told." I looked up and I saw Mortimer smiling at me from across the room, looking, I might add, entirely too pleased with himself. I held up the map and he glanced at it just once. No surprise, no confusion, no curiosity, only recognition. Like someone unexpectedly encountering an old acquaintance. For a moment, he said nothing. The fire crackled, and the rain tapped gently against the windows. Mort let out a soft chuckle.
Oh, brilliantly deduced, Sherlock. Absolutely breathtaking. 10 points to Hufflepuff. It only took you, what? 4 days, 15 cups of coffee and a minor existential crisis to realise that a map for walking with goats might actually point to, the ghosts. Ghosts of real people. What do you want? A medal?
So, in the new up-and-coming season, we're going to unfold that old London map and also the maps of other places across the world. We'll follow the marks of the people of those places and tell those stories. We'll walk those old streets and we'll begin by discovering some of London's people, their ghosts, the strangest documented hauntings, mysteries, and other unexplained encounters. So until then, shackpackers, keep your minds open and your lamps lit. And if you ever find an old book that seems determined to be found, you might want to pay attention to what it's actually trying to tell you. Good night. Thanks for joining me in the shack. See you all next week. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out in the shack with us. If you've got a strange story, theory, or even just a spooky question, send it to shackpackinbox@gmail.com because we'd love to hear from you. Follow us to ensure that you never miss an episode of The Freaking Shack, because listening to us is much cheaper than therapy and slightly more spooky. Until we meet again next week, Shackpackers, take care.